Montreal about to pull off the most calculated gamble in franchise history, or are they walking into a trap that could derail their carefully constructed rebuild? For years to come, this proposed Byfield blockbuster has everything: elite, potential, massive risk, and the kind of price tag that either creates championship rosters or organizational nightmares, depending on how the dice fall. Let's cut straight to the heart of what makes this trade so simultaneously compelling and terrifying for Canadiens fans. Quinton Byfield represents everything Montreal desperately needs, wrapped up in one tantalizing package: size, skill, youth, and that elusive second-line center capability that's been haunting their roster construction for years. At 6'4", with legitimate NHL production already on his resume, he's the kind of player who could transform their competitive ceiling overnight while fitting perfectly into their development timeline. But here's where this gets complicated and, frankly, a little scary from Montreal's perspective. The asking price isn't just steep, it's franchise-altering in ways that extend far beyond simply acquiring one player. We're talking about surrendering Kirby Dach, David Reinbacher, and a 2026 first-round pick, which represents roughly half of Montreal's premium asset portfolio in one fell swoop. That's not just aggressive roster management, that's betting the organizational farm on one player's continued development. The Byfield evaluation creates fascinating questions about projection versus production that define modern NHL asset management. His 50-point campaign last season represents solid progress, but it hardly screams franchise-changing impact worthy of such massive compensation. Yes, he's still developing, and yes, his physical tools suggest higher ceiling potential. But trading multiple premium assets requires absolute conviction that he can reach and sustain elite performance levels consistently. The Ivan Demidov connection adds compelling narrative appeal to this proposal that could influence decision-making beyond pure analytics. Imagine the possibilities of pairing Byfield's playmaking vision with Demidov's goal-scoring instincts on that crucial second line. That combination could mirror the Suzuki-Cofield chemistry that's proven so effective, creating the kind of offensive depth that championship teams require throughout their lineup. From Los Angeles' perspective, this package would address multiple organizational needs while maintaining competitive flexibility for their aging core. Acquiring Dach gives them another shot at unlocking a former high draft pick's potential, while Reinbacher provides exactly the kind of right-handed defensive prospect every team covets. The first-round pick adds future ammunition for additional moves or organizational depth development. The Kirby Dach component creates particularly interesting psychological dynamics that extend beyond simple player evaluation. Montreal would essentially be admitting their development system couldn't maximize his considerable potential while simultaneously betting they can succeed. Where Los Angeles has struggled with Byfield's consistency, that level of organizational self-awareness could represent mature thinking or concerning uncertainty about internal capabilities. Reinbacher's inclusion in this package might be the most painful sacrifice from Montreal's long-term perspective. The Swiss defenseman was selected 5th overall just 2 seasons ago and represents exactly the kind of right-handed defensive building block that takes years to acquire through traditional development channels. Trading him away creates immediate help at center, while potentially creating future problems on the blue line that prove more costly than any offensive improvements. The timing considerations add urgency to this evaluation that Kent Hughes cannot ignore. Montreal's young core is approaching that critical development phase where additional veteran support could accelerate their competitive timeline significantly. Waiting another season for internal development might mean missing opportunities to capitalize on favorable chemistry and momentum from their recent playoff success. The financial implications extend far beyond Byfield's current contract, encompassing future extension negotiations that could define Montreal's salary structure for the next decade. His production suggests he'll command significant raises when contract discussions begin, meaning this trade represents not just immediate asset exchange, but long-term financial commitment that could limit future roster flexibility. Consider the alternative pathways Montreal faces. If they don't pursue this type of aggressive acquisition strategy, the free agent center market remains notoriously thin, while trade options become increasingly limited as teams recognize their own needs. Sometimes the best long-term decision involves accepting short-term overpayment to secure crucial roster pieces when they become available. The Western Conference competitive implications add strategic layers that could influence Los Angeles' willingness to move Byfield within their own conference versus dealing him to Montreal. Teams often prefer trading premium assets to different conferences to avoid strengthening direct competitors, which could create negotiating leverage for Montreal despite the steep asking price. Hughes' recent comments about building championship contenders reveal organizational mindset that suggests willingness to make bold moves when value aligns with need. However, this proposal tests whether Montreal can distinguish between smart aggression and desperate overpayment when evaluating potential franchise-altering acquisitions. The development environment considerations create compelling arguments for why this trade could benefit both players involved. Byfield might thrive under Montreal's patient development approach and veteran leadership structure, while Doc could benefit from Los Angeles' different systems and reduced pressure expectations. Sometimes player-organization fit matters more than pure talent evaluation. The ripple effects throughout both lineups would be immediate and significant, creating new chemistry possibilities while potentially disrupting established relationships. Montreal would gain that elusive second-line anchor while sacrificing defensive depth and future flexibility. Los Angeles would add size and potential while losing proven NHL production from their forward core. The draft capital sacrifice represents perhaps the most concerning aspect of this proposal from Montreal's sustainable building perspective. First-round picks provide cost-controlled talent and organizational flexibility that becomes increasingly valuable as salary caps tighten league-wide. Trading such assets for unproven players increases pressure on current acquisitions to succeed. Immediately. The injury history surrounding Doc adds complexity to Los Angeles evaluation that could influence their willingness to accept this package. His durability concerns have been well documented, and acquiring players with health question marks requires confidence in medical staff and development systems to manage those risks effectively. Byfield's playoff experience with Los Angeles provides intangible value that doesn't appear in regular season statistics but could prove crucial for Montreal's continued development. Players who've competed in high-pressure postseason situations understand what championship hockey demands. Knowledge that transfers to teammates through daily interactions and leadership examples. The organizational culture considerations shouldn't be underestimated in evaluating this potential blockbuster. Montreal has built their identity around patience, development, and smart asset management. Making such an aggressive move would signal philosophical shift toward win-now mentality that could create internal pressure to validate the decision through immediate results. The age alignment between Byfield and Montreal's core creates appealing long-term possibilities that extend beyond just addressing immediate needs. Having centers like Suzuki and Byfield locked up through their prime years could provide the kind of foundational stability that championship organizations build around over multiple seasons. This trade proposal perfectly encapsulates the delicate balance between calculated risk-taking and reckless asset management that defines successful NHL organizations. Montreal must decide whether Byfield represents the missing piece that elevates them to legitimate contender status or an expensive gamble that could set back their development timeline. If expectations aren't met, the ultimate question becomes whether Hughes has enough conviction in his evaluation of Byfield to risk multiple premium assets on his continued development trajectory. Sometimes championship teams require bold moves that seem questionable initially, but prove brilliant in retrospect. Would you pull the trigger on this potential franchise-defining blockbuster? Or does surrendering Doc, Reinbacher, and a first-round pick represent the kind of overpay that destroys carefully constructed rebuilds? Let me know in the comments what you think about Montreal's willingness to bet big on Byfield's untapped potential, and don't forget to hit that like button if you want more deep dives into the trades that could completely reshape the NHL competitive landscape.